Ryan, offensively, since the deadline, the offense has always been there. What do you think was the difference tonight, and why that was such a struggle tonight?
Yeah, there were a number of things. We tried to do it on our own a little more than we had been doing in the past, and and I think it wasn't necessarily we dug ourselves a hole, defensively and offensively early, and I didn't see it as guys doing it maliciously. I saw it as guys, wanting to try to fight their way out, of a hole. So we just couldn't get anything going within the flow today.
Is the energy level where you wanted it? It's kind of a slow start.
Yeah. No, it wasn't today. I mean, and I think anybody who saw it, could attest to that. So we got to come out at where we are. We got to come out with a more competitive mindset early on. Especially against these teams like Dallas, who's an execution-based team, who's been together, and we had been doing that, our group, in the past.
Did your focus on rebounding, do you think, kind of contribute to some of the other areas where you left yourself vulnerable? Because I know you get out rebounded by a lot last game. You get out rebounded by Dallas last time. And you did, I think, maybe even win the battle of the boards this time.
Yeah, we did.
Is that focus? I mean, you couldn't close out on threes as well, and maybe transition is harder.
Yeah, I don't think so. Because bottom line, to win in this league, you got to be able to be good at all those things.
Right.
And we have emphasized the rebounding because that's been an Achilles heel of ours as of late. But that doesn't mean that you don't close out to 3-point shooters, because especially against a team like Dallas, if you don't close out to 3-point shooters, there's no rebound to be had usually.
And then the other thing is points in the paint.
Yeah.
You seem to limit their points in the paint a lot more after halftime and get a lot more yourself.
Yeah.
What were the adjustments there?
We went to more zone in the second half, and once again a zone that we're teaching on the fly in a lot of ways. But I give those guys credit for that. And then in the second half, I mean, we had holding a good offensive team to 18 points in the third quarter. But then we only scored 21. That hurts us.
Is the zone just to make up for the size? Can it also maybe be a little bit easier fewer miscommunications that way? What are the advantages of it?
The common misconception with the zone is that it can be a time for rest or a time to eliminate whatever if you're having miscommunication. But you got to communicate more in a zone because you're going to be in situations where you have matchup issues, size-wise, especially when they flash Porzingis to the nail area. But then also, you have cutters, and you're gonna have to communicate when you're going to bump a guy down or when you're staying with a guy. But the zone, it's something that we've, as a team, we've talked about wanting to do, and sometimes when your hand may be forced a little bit, having a smaller lineup. You're forced to do that a little bit, and we did that tonight.
I was going to ask about the zone too, but I guess specifically with when Carl comes back, off the top of my head, I don't think you guys have ran a ton of zone when he was.
We ran
some, but I guess my question is, do you think that will be part of your defensive identity for the rest of the season, with or without him?
Yeah, I do. I think that'll be part of it. We want to have a foundation, but we also, having new guys, we need to find ultimately what works, for these guys, especially on the defensive end.
When Johnson is in the game, it seems like it either works really well or it doesn't work well at all. Is that just because of, the nature, the aggressiveness with which you have to play small?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like today, for example, the defense got hurt quite a bit when he was in the game. And part of that may just be the aggressiveness, the movement, and a smart team can expose that.
obviously give Dallas credit, it being an execution-based, basketball club.
They camouflage a lot of stuff.
They do, but we're asking James to do a lot right now, in a lot of ways. You ask him to play point at times with the second. With that second unit, and then you ask him to guard the 5 with that second unit too. So he's having to think on different ends of the spectrum at times, and he poses a matchup problem. He's always been a guy who's been hard to game plan for, and no matter what, hey, if he had a turnover or if he had a defensive miscue, his heart was in the right place. Like, his intentions are in the right place, and a lot of this is hopefully rectified with time, as you play together more. But unfortunately, time is not a lot. It's not something we have a lot of. Because you look at the schedule, you're either playing every other day, or you're playing every other day, throw a back-to-back in there, have a day off, play another game. So that eliminates some of the practice time with these guys. So. We really need to force ourselves, myself included, find ways to help with the communication, because that can break up some of the defensive lapses, because we have guys with the right intentions to it. It's just communication is not there.
We've had a couple of these afternoon starts this year. I think Phoenix and Memphis earlier in the season, and I think those were a little sluggish as well. Is there anything to these afternoon starts, especially maybe coming off of a 4-game road trip, that the nature of it, the guys might just be a little sleepy, a little sluggish in that way?
It can be. Yeah, it can be. And I promise you, I make it a point that, hey, I'm going to look at the process too on my end and see if there's anything that, when we do have another, because we'll have another one of these games coming up, if there's something we can change about it. I'm not somebody who says, hey, you got to do this, and this, and, you don't look at yourself to see if there's something you can change about how your approach may be, to that game. So we'll look into that, because, when you have some tough games on an afternoon Sunday, you want to make sure that, and coming off a trip is a little bit different too, because you land late, and you don't necessarily practice like on a day like yesterday, and then it's an early start today. But we'll look at everything.
Are you seeing improvements with the communication on the defensive end?
At times, in spurts. With I thought the communication was better in the third quarter, and it showed. I thought that when we needed to get stops, if we had it pushed to about 15, you get a stop. Now, granted, we didn't have great offensive possessions in that time too, but when we needed stops, we weren't able to get those, from an execution-based basketball club.